Oh, hey there. So today we did get wind blown, so we had to stop what we were doing up on the roof, and we did not succeed what I wanted to get done. However, we did get house wrap up the other day, and that was nice. And then we got windows in today. Not all of them, not the upstairs, but all the downstairs windows in. And then we got some siding up, so that's pretty exciting. Now, come on with me. We're gonna take another quick look. We also got this gabled end done and most of the other one done, and that's a big deal because it was dangerous. But in addition to that, we got these windows in, and then that French door in, and then there's another exterior door on the other side that we got done as well. And I just want to say, for the record, maybe you're holding on, you're like, I don't want to forgive this person. And you're like, but forgiveness is a gift that you give to yourself. So if you're sitting there holding like something bad in your heart against somebody else, like I hate them and they deserve to be punished, the person you're punishing is you. So think about that. Have a good night. Sorry, I'm a little behind today. Let me tell you what happened, okay? I had to do boss stuff. I'm not a good boss. I'm not, okay? I had to drive around the world and go find things and pick things up and whatever. And I really feel like a big fat jerk. I probably put on 12 or 18 pounds today. I'm not good with math. Because you guys all did all this work, and Drew did too. And look at this. Isn't this beautiful? I mean, with such pride they did this. And it's...
I was looking forward to this day because I love siding.
She does.
So I was really excited about this day.
You say she was excited.
Exciting. Yeah, it's so exciting. So as soon as we said yesterday, somebody said something about Hardie, and Christina's like off somewhere, like in a hole.
And I reappeared.
And she's like, did somebody say siding?
Someone say Hardie. That's
Yeah,
the
that's
key
what
word.
I Did somebody say Hardie?
Yes.
She's like, ooh, I want to do that. And I'm like, I need you to help me with this door. And she's like,
Well, you know how girls are with brand names.
oh, yeah. Hardie is important. All right. So, Kenny.
All right, so we sided the whole backside here today.
Don't forget the wind.
The wind was...
Holy monkey, the wind.
Yeah, so we were probably...
I almost blew away.
We were
She
fixing...
did. Her jacket went up like this, and she's...
If you pan over here and look at this house wrap, that all broke loose and acted as a giant sail.
It looks like a couch cushion right now because it's blowing out so much.
Right, yeah, so we had to address that, and we came around here, and we have all this stuff chopped up, we did siding. Now, being me, I'm anal. And so,
Not in the gay way.
well, you know. Anyways.
So takes it too far.
Do a video.
Yeah, too.
Or get you the selfie stick.
I don't care if I'm in it. Let's see what we got here. That's just the wind blowing. Don't worry about that. Hey there. So hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day, safe on the ground, where you don't have to worry about your life. Is that what we did? No. Tell us.
So if you look back there, it doesn't seem like very much from down here, but when you're up there looking down, you're like, this could be my last moment with legs that are intact.
Or
A rib cage full of ribs that are not broken.
a life here on Earth.
A life here on Earth.
Yeah, because it's pretty sketchy up there. But the wind slowed down. It didn't stop, but it slowed down. And so we got the rest of the gable stitched up with OSB, and we got felt, synthetic felt, on the garage and over all that stuff. And then halfway up this right here, which was so simple, right?
Really simple. So it's so simple that you have to really pay attention to where you're walking, because that stuff right there was designed to be extra slippery and dangerous.
Yeah. But fortunately, I had my feet replaced with flies feet, and they stick to anything.
Flies feet?
Yep.
My feet were replaced with bricks.
Yeah.
They stick to a lot of stuff, but they're not that comfortable.
That's fair. That's fair. But you know how flies are. They're like this. Oh, there's a drone. Hey, we're filming too. Cool. All right, so I think about this a lot, Kenny. Let's see if you do. I see people and they're like, if I don't do this thing, somebody else will. right? If they say like, if I don't sell this person drugs, somebody else will. If I don't go to war and kill this person, somebody else will. If I don't, I don't know, be a stripper or a porn star or whatever, somebody else will.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's nothing bad about this because if I don't do it, somebody else will. How do you feel about that?
I feel like that's a cop-out, right? You're not, first of all, if you're that kind of person, you, in my opinion, is you probably already don't contribute very much to the world.
True story.
And if you don't contribute much to the world, it's hard for a person like me or John or anybody else, I feel like, to respect you. So if you wander around and you wonder why nobody respects you, look inwards and wonder, am I that guy?
Or girl.
Or girl.
Yep. Because think about this, right? What if every one of us stood up and said, I don't care if everybody else in the world does it, I won't sell drugs. I don't care if everybody else in the world does it, I will not go and kill people. What if everybody else in the world said, you know, I don't care what they do, I won't do these things. Then all of a sudden, guess what happens? Nobody does them. And all it takes is one person to stand up and say, I won't do this. And then somebody else, that gives them the courage to stand up and go, yeah, I don't want to do it either.
What is it? It's not the first person, right? It's the second. It's the first follower that starts a movement.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can have a leader, but if you don't have a follower, the second and third follower, then you're pretty much peeing in the wind.
There's a lone wolf.
Yep.
But I just want to say, we will not do those things. And therefore, you can follow us. You can follow Kenny, because I'm already ahead.
Yeah, follow me. Right into hell.
No, not right into hell.
I'm gonna follow you to lunch.
Metaphorically speaking, you know.
No.
Right into discomfort.
Into the battle of righteousness.
Battle of righteousness. There you
Yeah. Boom. All right, we're going to go eat lunch. Hey, Kenny, what you got to drink?
go. Clown juice.
Hold on. What do you got to drink?
I got that silly juice.
Same. Nope. Clown juice for everybody.
That clown juice done seen the road too long.
That hole's been wore out.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to show you guys the house that we're building for you because I'm so excited. Obviously today we did a bunch of stuff. We got the rest of this gable stitched up. We put these 3 windows in this wall. We're gonna put 4 more windows in this wall over here. There's gonna be a staircase. We're cutting a hole for the fireplace. Can you see that, Mike, over there? So we're gonna cut a hole for the fireplace and put that in. And it's looking really good.
It looks great.
Thank you.
Everything looks great. But I have a question for
Yeah.
you. I was wondering what a load-bearing wall is
Yeah.
because, well, I'm seeing that doesn't seem to be taking any weight. What is a load-bearing wall?
That is a great question. It's one that I get asked at least once a month, maybe more. So come with me. This wall right here, you're correct,
Yeah.
does not bear a load, okay? Because this floor truss and this floor truss do not rest on this wall. In fact, nothing rests on this wall, therefore it is not a load-bearing wall. So you could cut this out and remove it, it would make no difference whatsoever. However, if we come over here, this wall is bearing the load from these floor trusses here, ceiling, whatever floor trusses. And if we took this wall out, then those would fall down because half the weight is here and half the weight is over there. And so it is bearing the load. It is a load bearing wall, right? So if you were to, let's say that at some point in the future, you would say, I want this gone. How would I do that? Then the answer is you put in a beam, right?
Where?
So in this case, that would be darn near impossible unless you had a post. But for example, let's say this over here, okay? So if you're like, I want to have a open concept for my bathroom, my bedroom, that I wouldn't do. But you can tell that this is bearing the load of all these, right? So how would I open this up? And the answer is you would temporarily support the ceiling, right? So we put up a board and we put vertical supports on it. And then we cut out where the beam is going to be, and we have jack studs, and jack studs take weight all the way to the ground, but then also have the beam sitting on top of it. This is just a header, but you put a bigger, 2x12 triple beam, and then come across that, and then land on another jack stud. And then once we did that, we could cut all this stuff out. Well, you have to cut it out first. And then we'd relieve the load and it wouldn't settle at all because it would already be secure in its place. And then we're taking the load from this part to the 2 sides.
Gotcha.
And that's how you make an open concept. So that is, without having to look through sheetrock, how a load-bearing wall works and how an open concept and a beam works. It's not that complicated. I mean, an idiot can do it. Obviously, I can do it. So an idiot can do it.
Yeah, we see it on TV.
Right.
When we watch our shows, we hear about load-bearing walls.
And that's what it means. So, any other questions?
I actually do.
Okay, which
I noticed you got big honking screws coming up in your.
Correct.
Where this is supposed to be all wood, right?
So, what these are wedge anchors, okay? Here, we'll get close to it. So, what we do, you got a pressure-treated bottom plate, which means that this is guaranteed for life against rot and decay, and bugs won't eat it. So, it's got a chemical in it they pressurize, and then it soaks the whole board, and it turns green like that, right? So, that's so that if there's moisture contact, which there will be, then it doesn't rot your board out and then your whole house settles. But we drill these about every 3 feet, and we drill a hole deep into the concrete, about that deep in, and then it's got a threaded bolt, but at the bottom of it, it's got a wedge, and when you hammer it in, it flares out and sticks into that concrete, and so that's not going anywhere. And then you tighten this up, and the more you tighten it, when you pull it up, then it flares out that bolt, and it just locks it in. So we put those all the way around. Everywhere that we've got it coming into concrete, we've got a wall, then about every 3 feet, we put one of these bolts. And it makes a huge difference. So then when you try to rock the wall's like, nah, I'm good.
I don't think they did that in our old house.
That's what I heard.
Well, it's beautiful. We're
Yeah.
real excited.
Why not treat every piece of wood like that?
Because of the cost. And also, full disclosure, pressure treated wood to burn it is not good for you. There's chemicals in it that if you breathe it, it's really not good for you. And it's got some kind of, I forget what it is, copper oxide or copper something or other. And it's not maybe great for the environment, but it is great for your house.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to pressure treat all the wood. And it makes it much heavier too. So this wood, I don't know if you can kind of feel it, but it feels very light because that's pine that's been kiln dried. But then this yellow pine is usually what they do this with, and they pressure treat it, and then it gets like 5 times heavier. At which point your house, that's a lot more weight to put on your concrete. And
Well, I can't wait to do a drywall video.
oh yeah. We're getting closer. Every day we're getting closer. So anyway, love you guys, man.
Love you.
Yeah.
Love him.
Oh yeah. I love him.
Love everybody.
Yeah. Not in a gay way, but. Oh, hey there. So today we got more siding or OSB on here. We put felt on here. We've wrapped these windows with Hardie trim, and now we're starting to put Hardie on this wall, which is great. We also did some stuff around the corner, and then here, come on.
Pretty dang go, dude. Really pull tighter, dude.
Watch foot. There you go. And then we put in all 4 of these window holes right here, which is cool. I don't know if you guys have seen a whole lot of the inside of this yet, but this is going to be where the staircase is, right here. And so then there'll be windows like this. Now, I don't know if anybody, like, a lot of times you guys ask me for advice and you say, hey, you know, how do you do this thing? And I need to ask you guys for some help. I'm looking for somebody, and I'm good at Photoshop, but I'm looking for somebody that can Photoshop my personality for people that don't know better, so that like they would look at me and go, he's not such a bad guy. So if anybody knows somebody that would Photoshop my personality to make me look more likable, I would really appreciate that. All right. So today I'm out here by myself with one other person who's filming, and her name's Christina. And we are doing piddly, what I call piddly little things. So we have to put boards up here, nailer boards. Let me show you. Right here, if you're hanging sheetrock, you would have something to nail to all the way along here, and all the way along here, and all the way along here. But here, if you put a piece of sheetrock up, you would not have anything to nail to, so we have to put a piece up there. We also built around the fireplace and did some errand type things, but it came to my attention that perhaps not everybody in the world knows a few what we consider to be common knowledge things. Okay, but if somebody doesn't know, then I assume that other people don't know as well, and so I want to explain. So a lot of times we say these things wrong, and it's our own fault. Okay, and by that I say people that know better, because it's so common that we just let it go, right? So for example, in the AV business, people call a podium, right? So what you stand at when you're going to speak is a podium. But technically it's a lectern, and the stage you're standing on is a podium. Nobody ever says it. And so when a presenter says, hey, I need a podium up here, then all these people want to chime in and say, oh, but no, technically you're standing on a podium and the lectern's the thing that you, and I'm like, who cares? We know what they're talking about, like, leave it alone. So here's an example, okay? If something is sitting this way, okay, and the bubble is in the middle, that is level, okay? And when a wall is what we call level, it's actually plumb. So you read the things up here and here, and if it's in the middle, then you're good. So this is technically plumb, not level, and this is level, not plumb. So horizontal is level, vertical is plumb. Interesting fact, yes. All right, Christina, what's on your heart?
Nothing.
She's shrugging her shoulders and says nothing, so I assume that you can only be talking about Psalm 23. So
There we go.
yeah, was that what you were thinking?
Definitely.
Yeah. So when I first started going to Grace Community Church, it was a very hard time for me. I'm not going to lie. I just got a divorce that same week, my first divorce, which was unpleasant. There was lots of tragedy. I was in a lot of debt. Things were not going well. I felt like I was probably never going to recover. And I showed up, and 3 different people in 1 week said, you ought to come to Grace, my church. And so I did. And I walked in, and our pastor said, we're going to spend the next 6 weeks talking about Psalm 23. Now, I'm not an idiot. And so I know that Psalm 23 is about this big. That's the whole thing. I'm like, 6 weeks on that? All right, I'm listening. And the part that he was on the day that I showed up, was, and though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, right? So I'm going to tell you the whole thing. It says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me beside green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. And that's it. That's the whole thing, right? But what he pointed out was that David wrote this psalm, and David was a shepherd, and there really is a place in Israel called the Valley of the Shadow of Death. And it's so deep and it's so narrow that sunlight never hits the bottom, and so it's called the Valley of the Shadow of Death, okay? And so David would graze his sheep on the lowlands, and then they would eat all that up, and he would take them through the Valley of the Shadow of Death. And he reminded us, this is not your final place. This is a place you have to go through to get to higher ground. And I was like, I'm listening, okay? So he would go through and take the sheep, the whole flock, through the Valley of the Shadow of Death to get to higher ground. Now, sometimes the sheep would get spooked, okay? Something would happen and they'd, get all antsy or whatever. The shepherd lived with them, and so he would sing to them. And when they heard his voice, they were like, I know it's safe. I know I'm protected because my shepherd is here and he will protect us from anything that comes our way. But sometimes they get really spooked. And so he would take his rod and he would place it on the back of their neck to let them know, I'm not just here, I'm right here. I'm right here next to you. Nothing is going to get you. Nothing is going to touch you because I'm right next to you. Nothing will get that close, I promise. And the sheep just, And sometimes I think that we need to realize that, right? Like God's telling us, hey, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And then sometimes he just puts his hand on us and goes, I'm not just here, I'm right here. Like I've got you, and nothing, the lion and the bear, the wolf will not attack you because I am bigger than them and I'm stronger than them. Anyway, then it says, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. So what David would do is he would get to the higher land through the valley of the shadow of death, finally get through that and like, sunlight and green grass, I want to go eat. He's like, chill, stay right here for a minute. And he would take his rod and he would poke it around because there was poisonous snakes, there was asps, and there were vipers. And so he would poke around and he would find the snake holes and he would try to kill the snakes. But if he didn't, he would pour oil into the snake holes, because the snakes, if the sheep was grazing and a snake was there and it wanted to strike, then it would be slippery and so it wouldn't get a good strike. But also they hated the smell of it, and so they're like, ugh, and they would abandon their holes and go somewhere else, okay? So also another one, part of that I left out is you anoint my head with oil, which we hear and we're like, oh, that's nice, whatever, right? But he literally poured oil on their heads so that while they were grazing, the snakes wouldn't get them because they were repulsed by the smell. Also, there was nose flies that would buzz all around, and they would get in their nose and they would lay eggs inside their sinuses, and these eggs would hatch, and they would have just thousands of bugs inside their head, and it would drive them crazy. And they'd smash their heads against rocks, and they would just be not in a good place because they got all these bugs inside their face, and it would drive them crazy. But when he anointed their head with oil, then they would fly all around, and they would not land on them, and they would not go in their nose. And so he literally, it says, you anoint my head with oil, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. He literally prepared a table before them in the presence of their enemies. There were snakes and there was nose flies that did not touch them because he had protected them, he had gone ahead of them, cleaned the land out, and then whatever was left there, he's like, I'll protect you from that too. And I think that's an important lesson for us, that God is there and he's watching us and he's putting up safeguards for us. Now, we can be dumb. Okay, we can be dumb and we can do stuff and we can still get hurt. But overall, he's like, I'm trying to protect you. Okay, so then it says, my cup runneth over. Okay, so sheep are very fickle, which I didn't know. And they don't like to put their head down into something, which I don't blame them. I don't either. When I eat, I don't put my head in a bucket. And so they want it to be overflowing. So he would reach down in the well and pull the bucket of water up and he'd pour it and keep their trough overflowing so that they could just lick just the top of the water because they're fickle. Now, they had plenty of water underneath that, but he, even though it was more hassle for him, would bring up more and more water because it was more comfortable for them. And so he showed his love by saying, look, your cup runs over. I want to take care of you. I love you. And God does the same thing for us. Like, if we're honest, we have far more than what we need. And then it says, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. And I just think that that's a truly beautiful analogy once you understand that when he's talking about sheep, he's really talking about us. And that this is a very real place and it's a very real thing. This is our life. So I hope you're having a wonderful Saturday, and I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, even though I'm a Grinch. All right. Hey there. So I just want to apologize. I want to start by apologizing because I haven't really done any videos this week. We've been doing some sketchy stuff up here, okay? We're all up on scaffolding. We got the other gable done, which is great. We did most of this morning, which is nice. We still have to wrap around a little bit there. Here in a couple days, we will be past the sketchy stuff and I will be more inclined to make some videos, but it's been sketchy. Am I wrong, Mike? And every day is like the wind and the rain and the fog and the cold, and it's just been, it's been a beating. Anyway, so I want to talk to you today about two guys that went to church, okay? And one of these guys, they stood fairly close to each other, and one of these guys looked up to heaven. He said, God, thank you for making me such a wonderful person. I tithe 10% of my money. I don't do anything on the Sabbath day. I follow all your laws. Pretty much an awesome person. So thank you, God. And he pats himself on the back. This is the story Jesus is telling, by the way. Then there's another guy, he's a tax collector. Tax collectors were people that were Jews that lived in Israel, but the Roman Empire came in and said, hey, you can tax your brothers and sisters and then you can cheat them for more money if you want. And then they did. And so they were pretty much hated. A lot like tax collectors today, but even worse. So this tax collector doesn't even lift his head up. He beats his chest and he just says, God, please forgive me. I'm a sinner. And then Jesus looked at the crowd and he said, which one of these two men went away justified that day? The one that did everything right and was bragging on himself, or the one that knew his place? And the crowd is like, I don't know, the good guy? And he's like, no. The one that, because pride comes before a fall, but humility comes before honor. And this guy was full of pride, which is a sin. It's one of the seven deadly sins, right? Like, you puff yourself up and you think, I'm so good, I'm so good, I'm so good. You're not. And then the other person is like, I realize my place in life. I'm so sorry, please forgive me. And God's like, I'll forgive you. So think about that, because sometimes we need to be brought back down to reality a little bit on what our place is. And really, every one of us needs mercy. And so we need to be merciful. And we also need to understand that we need humility, because it keeps us humble and, keeps us from falling. All right, we're gonna go get some lunch. Oh, hey there. So we got quite a bit of stuff done today. all this doesn't look like much, but this is high and complicated, and we had to have scaffolding and ladders on scaffolding and all kinds of things. And to get that done makes our hearts sing. So it is now Christmas Eve where we are, and I don't know where it is, what time it is, or what day it is when you're watching this, but it's Christmas Eve. And so I just want to mention that in the middle of all this chaos that is holidays, and did I get all the presents that I wanted, and did I give all the presents that I needed to, and all the things that we worry about, and did we decorate, and did we give everybody cards or whatever, I just feel like we need to pause for a minute and just focus on what Christmas is really about. And that is, Jesus was born into this world so that he would save us. And what a miracle it was. It changed everything. I mean, before him, it was BC, and afterwards is AD. Like, all time changed. Literally everything changed because of him. And he came into our world to come and be one of us and then to die for us. And that's a big deal. And wise men still bring their gifts to Jesus. I mean, that's the truth, is that wise men still seek after him, and they go, this is everything that I have, and I still feel like it's not enough. You know the story of the little drummer boy, this song, the little drummer boy. He's a poor boy too, and he says, I have no gift to bring, but I can play the drum. And so he does, and when he does, then Jesus smiles at him, and that's enough for him, right? And I just think, whatever it is that we have, no matter how big or small, let's bring that to him. And oftentimes the way that we do that is through kindness to people, and especially to people that can't ever pay you back. So I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday. I'm very excited about the progress here. We'll be back on Monday to do more progress. And love you guys so much. All right, bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.